All praises to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everyone joining me on this program. This is a Fountain of Israel's Bible Studies program. And as always, it's an honor for me to stand before you on the Lord's holy Sabbath day. Now, before we get into our Sabbath, let me remind you to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you feel so inclined, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Smash that notification bell because I don't want you to miss any of our lessons. And check the description box below if you care to donate, which you can do by PayPal, or you can also donate by CashApp. Now, with that being out of the way, let's get into our lesson. And our lesson today is a high holy day. We're talking about none other than the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Harvest, First Fruits, Pentecost. We're talking about Pentecost or Shavuot. Okay, so with that, we're going to get into the meaning of Pentecost, which simply means 50, which we're talking 7 Sabbaths plus 1 day. 7 Sabbaths plus 1 day, and that's how we end up with Pentecost being on first day of the week. So with that, we're going to jump into our scriptures, and we want to get a real meaning behind, Pentecost, and a real meaning behind all of our feast days. This is one of the bigger ones where, the men and their families are supposed to gather together. So if you guys were fortunate enough to be able to do that, Yah bless you that you're able to gather together, or go to someone's land, or go to a community or something like that. Or if you can just gather together with a couple of families and meet at your house and things like that, but gather in the name of the Most High, because these are indeed his feasts. So we're going to jump in, and I'll be reading out of the King James Version, and I'm going to start this one off over in Exodus 23. Exodus 23, and I'm going to start at verse 14. And it reads, 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. So 3 times you're going to keep a feast unto me, unto the Most High in the year, right? But this is one where you come together, right? I mean, obviously there's some other feasts there, and we're supposed to keep all those feasts, but these are where you actually come together and meet. 15, thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread, which is also, Passover, the days following Passover, that is. And thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I command thee, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it thou camest out from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. So you got to be ready to go, okay? Now we get into what we're talking about. The feast and the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labor, which thou hast sown in the field. The feast of harvest. Pentecost, right? We get this idea of Pentecost. It comes in the New Testament, but don't worry, these holy days come by or known by different names. But this is what we're talking about: the Feast of Harvest, Feast First Fruit. You guys will see that. Which thou the first fruit of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the Feast of Ingathering or Tabernacles. They have multiple names. Which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy fields out, gathered in thy labors out of the fields. Sorry. Okay. So these are the big ones, right? We got like 7 feasts, but these are the main ones where you're supposed to gather together, all the assemblies and the congregations get together on land, stuff like that. Yes, I know some of you guys can't do it. Some of you guys are out here doing it by yourself. I understand. I get it. It happens. We all start that way. Okay. And that's okay. But still, even if it's just you and your family, have a feast. Okay. Have a feast and bless that feast. Okay. We're going to go over to Exodus 34. We're going to look at a similar thing. He says it over here as well. Exodus 34 and verse 22, which reads, and thou shalt observe the Feast of Weeks. That's what we're talking about. Of the first fruit of wheat harvest, and the Feast of Ingathering at the year's end. So he said the same thing, just says it a little bit different, right? At first he said, you're going to observe the Feast of Harvest, the first fruit of thy labors. Okay, Feast of first fruit of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, like that. Then he goes into Feast of Ingathering, right? In Exodus 23, but in Exodus 34, he said, and thou shalt observe the Feast of Weeks of the first fruits of the wheat harvest. Okay, so the same thing is just worded a little different, right? And then he said, and the feast of ingathering at the year's end, which he said over in Exodus 23. It was the same thing, the feast of ingathering. So this to let you know we're talking about the same thing, right? And then it says 23, and thrice in the year shall all your men children appear before the Lord God, the God of Israel. So this is all the men, because it starts with the men. All the men have to start there, which, you know, a quick aside, that's why the men are in their leadership positions, and that's something else, guys. That's something else. It's just amazing how some people like to usurp certain things and go against protocol. 27, but I digress. 24. For I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge thy borders, and neither shall any man desire thy land, when thou shalt go up to appear before the Lord thy God thrice in the year. So it's saying, look, when you do this, I'm going to increase your territory, and other nations, they ain't gonna desire, they ain't gonna get your land, okay? Because I'm gonna increase your borders. They're not gonna get your land. They might want it, but they're not gonna get it if we observe this 3 times a year. Now, since Israel got away from that, what has happened now? Has Israel's borders been increased? I'm talking about of Israelites, okay? Have our borders been increased, enlarged? Are we in our land? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So that lets you know we have gotten away from it. That's why you're going to have a smattering of people observing, a smattering of people doing what should be done. It's going to be really, really hard. It is dress rehearsal. Now, of course, you're going to get some people like, well, we really can't do it. We're not in Jerusalem and all the other stuff. Now, they're not taking note that we're in Exodus and they're not in Jerusalem right here, and yet they're keeping it. Okay? So I understand that this is merely a dress rehearsal, but we still need to get into practice of it, right? So if nobody's doing it, okay, we have to be that chosen people. We got to be somebody who observes that, because remember, you got billions and billions of people observing pagan holidays, and so few observing the biblical holy days. We need to observe them. Therefore, we need to keep the feast. The Most High he understood, he knew that we're going to be scattered throughout the world. Guess what? He's the one who did it. He scattered us throughout the world. And there we go. Here we are. Here we are. Okay? Promises made, promise kept. That's all that is. These prophecies are going to be fulfilled, and they are fulfilled. So we need to at least try. Again, it's a dress rehearsal. Okay? We need to try to do these things. We need to observe these things. Let's go on over to Leviticus 23. This is where we get our biblical holy days. Let's go to Leviticus 23. We'll start at verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. Now we know who the feasts belong to. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of rest and holy convocation. And you shall do no work therein. It is the Sabbath of the Lord and all your dwellings. These are the feasts of the Lord, even holy convocations, gatherings, got to get together, which ye shall proclaim in their season at the appointed time. These are the Moedims, right? In the 14th day of the first month, at even is the Lord's Passover. So we have an understanding right there. Coming out with the first one, well, he start with the weekly one, and then the very first one in the spring is the Passover. Okay? So we go from the Passover, and the very next day, or for the next 7 after that, is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They are connected. Okay? So, with that, Leviticus 23 allows us to establish what are these biblical holy days unto the Lord. It also lets us know who the holy days belong to, because you may get some naysayers and be like, oh, that's just for the Jews, or those feasts that belongs to the Jews. No. The Most High said these are my feasts. So if you serve the Most High, then you need to observe his feasts regardless of who you are or what you are. Right? So with that, we're going to go to Deuteronomy 16. Deuteronomy 16. We'll start at verse 10 and then we'll jump around a little bit. Deuteronomy 16 reads this way: "And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with a tribute of a freewill offering of thine hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according as the Lord thy God has blessed thee." And I'm going to skip down to 16. And it says this again: "3 times in a year shall all the males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose, in the feast of unleavened bread, and in the feast of weeks, and in the feast of tabernacles." You see, he's saying the same thing, 3 different places now. "And they shall not appear before the Lord empty." Okay, you're supposed to bring in, when you celebrate the feast, we're going to get to that in Deuteronomy in another chapter, how you celebrate the feast, but you're not supposed to come empty. You're supposed to have your offering. It said it right at the top, you know, you're going to have your offering. You got to be ready to go. Okay, with the tithe of your, you know, your corn and your wine and your meat and all, you got to be ready to go. Okay, it's one big giant potluck if you go with, you know, you go with a community or another family or something like that. One big giant potluck. Do not appear before the Lord empty. And then he gives this charge to the men. He let the men know, hey, all the male, dude, we got to take the lead. Okay, we got to take the lead on this, fellas. And it says in 17, "And every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he has given thee," because the Most High give us the power to make money. He gives us the power, you know, to have a job. He gives us this ability to earn. And we're supposed to take this earning. Now, obviously, we come from an agricultural society. We're not really there now, but that's where we come from. So again, this is earning. This is effort. This is, you know, the tithe. Now, of course, again, the tithe wasn't a bunch of money or anything like that. Okay, it was grains and fruit and particular animals. You know, things like that. Okay, it was and oil, and you guys know it. Okay, it wasn't cash. All right. It wasn't cash, but we deal with what we deal with today. Okay, I don't want to mislead you. I don't want to mislead anybody and make people think, oh, you know, you got to give this money and all that. I mean, it does involve money because that's how we do things right now. Okay, but I'm not one of these Timu Hebrews that's going to sit there and tell you, oh, well, you know, you need to come out with, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% of your income. Okay, I'm not doing that. Okay, we're not doing that. I'll tell you exactly what it is. Okay. I'm not going to switch it up on you. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. We deal with money today because most people don't get on farms and stuff like that. You know, we don't have a storehouse to put it in, you know, stuff like that. But again, it says bind up the money and all that. We'll get to that at the end. Okay, we'll get to that. All right, so I'm going back to Leviticus 23. Okay, we're going to go back to Leviticus 23. And I'm going to pick up at verse 4. Okay, back to Leviticus 23, verse 4, which reads, "And these are the feasts of the Lord's, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons." This is when you're supposed to do it. Drop down to verse 9. "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye be come into the land which I give unto thee, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest." Okay, you're going to bring a sheaf of the first fruit, right, to the priest. "And he shall weigh the sheaf offering before the Lord to be accepted for you on the morrow after the Sabbath. The priest shall waive it." On the morrow after the Sabbath, if the Sabbath is the 7th day, then what day is the first day? Okay, what day? The morrow after the 7th day is the first day. Okay, so that's why we're doing it right now on the first day of the week. Okay, so we get that. Now, a couple things I want you to remember, because we're going to call back to this. Okay, it says, now, the first fruit, I want you to remember first fruit. I want you to remember that. Okay, you are already explained the morrow after the Sabbath. This is how we get to the first day of the week. "And then he shall wave the sheaf offering before the Lord." Go before the Lord. Present it before the Lord. Presenting it, right? He presenting the first fruit of the Lord. He's presenting it before the Lord so that it is accepted for you the morrow after the Sabbath. Now watch this in verse 12. And ye shall offer that day when ye wave the sheaf and he lamb without blemish of the first year. Now when you wave that, okay, you're going to wave a sheep, wave the sheep, a he lamb, okay, without blemish of the first year. A perfect lamb, no blemish. Okay, perfect lamb of the first year for a burnt offering unto the Lord. You're gonna do, so you got your first fruit, tomorrow after the Sabbath, and then you're gonna wave a he. You're gonna offer a sheep and a he lamb without blemish. Drop down to 15. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. 7 Sabbaths, 7 weeks, 7 Sabbaths, 7 Saturdays in layman's terms. We're going to do 7 Sabbaths, okay? 7 Saturdays shall be complete, even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days. 7 times 7 is 49. Tomorrow after that 7th Sabbath is 50. One more day. 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. So we see how we got it. That's what Pentecost, 50 day, 50. Okay, 50. This is how we get 50 days. We count 7 Sabbaths. Okay, 7 Sabbaths after, Passover and unleavened bread. 7 Sabbaths. The day after that 7th Sabbath, boom, you got the first day of the week, 50, Pentecost, Feast of Weeks. Here we go, first fruit. Okay, so some of those callbacks. First fruit, a lamb without spot, without blemish. And you already got the morrow after the Sabbath, which is how we got till today. This is how we got to today. Okay? Okay, so this is all symbolic, just letting you know what is going on. Because when we go over these holy days, I like to deal with it, deal with the holy days. I like to know what we're doing and why we are doing it. Right? I don't know your background in Christianity, but when you have the holidays, sometimes we know what we're doing. Sometimes we don't know what we're doing. We're just doing it out of tradition. And we certainly don't know why we're doing it, because we're just doing it out of tradition. It's just tradition. Right? But now you understand what these holidays are. You'll understand what they symbolize. Okay, symbolize the first fruit. Okay, 7 weeks, 50 days, Pentecost. Okay, so we're gonna see it's a new thing, a brand new harvest. Remember, this is in the spring. Passover is in the spring. Unleavened bread, beginning of the spring. Then we're gonna go 50 days, and we're gonna get the first fruit out of this harvest, this brand new crop, this new thing, brand new. You know what? I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's go to Numbers 28. Let's go to Numbers 28. Numbers 28, and I'm going to pick it up at, let's see here, 26. Numbers 28, 26. Also, in the day of the first fruit, when you bring a new meat offering unto the Lord, after your weeks be out, 7 weeks, ye shall have a holy convocation, ye shall do no servile work. Okay, so don't do any work for money. But ye shall offer the burnt offering for a sweet savor unto the Lord, and 2 young bullocks, 1 ram, 7 lambs of the first year. And their meat offering of flour mingled with oil, 3 tenth deals unto 1 bullock, 2 tenth deals unto 1 ram. Okay, these are just measurements, guys, just measurements. A several tenth deal unto 1 lamb throughout the 7 lambs, and 1 kid of the goats, to make an atonement for you. Okay, this giving us instruction, right? So 31. And you shall offer them beside the continual burnt offering and his meat offering, and they shall be unto you without blemish, perfect, without blemish. and their drink offerings. These are the offerings because this is supposed to atone for us and make us clean. These are these annual feasts. These are annual Sabbaths. These are high holy days or high Sabbaths, annual, okay? And the annuals supersede the weekly, okay? The annuals supersede the weekly. Okay, so we're going to go on over to Deuteronomy, if you will. We're going to go on over to Deuteronomy. These are the type of things that we miss, when we fall into certain religions, and we just don't get a clear understanding of what we're doing. We're just doing it because, again, tradition. And we got to get out of that. We got to break free and start reading the scriptures for ourselves. Okay, and sometimes we got to be guided. We do because there's a lot of butter muffins out there that will mislead you. They become adroit and coming up with certain doctrines that makes it sound good. But you're way off. We're way off base. Way off base. It doesn't seem that much at first. But you guys know sometimes we can have a particular trajectory where we can be off the slightest integer. Right? Just a little bit. But then carry it out over time. Look, see, you're not straight. It's not straight. Where if we had it a line, it's just straight. But be off just the slightest bit, it's not straight. And the further and the more you go, the further you are off course. That's my point. That's my point there. We're going to go to Deuteronomy 16, if you will. Join me over in Deuteronomy 16. And we're going to pick it up over in verse 8, Deuteronomy 16, verse 8, which reads, 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and on the 7th day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord thy God. Okay, remember in other places it'll say holy convocation. Right here it says solemn assembly. It means the same thing. Okay. Assembly unto the Lord thy God, thou shalt do no work therein. 7 days shall thy number unto 7 weeks. 7 weeks shall thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. Okay, I told you it was an agricultural culture, right? 10. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with a tribute of a free will offering of thy hand, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy God, according as the Lord thy God has blessed thee. According to how he blessed you, that's how much you're going to get back. Right? And 11. And thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God. You're going to be happy, you're going to party, you're going to celebrate. Thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou and thy son and thy daughter and thy manservant and thy maidservant and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that is among you, in the place which the Lord thy God has chosen to place his name there. Let's touch that a little bit, okay? Look at it. You're going to have a feast. You're going to rejoice, merrymaking. There's going to be much merriment to be had. Okay? And he says, look who's going to be involved in this rejoicing, right? Your son, your daughter, your manservant, the guy who's indentured to you, the maidservant, anybody, the people of your household, okay? And the Levite, remember the Levite didn't have an inheritance of land, but the priests were there to do the priestly duties, right? Basically butchers, okay, for the sacrifices. And so they were amongst each tribe, okay? That's why it says, and the Levite that is within thy gates, right? And the stranger who come along, well, guess what? You got to do what Israel does, right? And the fatherless and the widow. So the little kids without fathers and the women without husbands, right? That are among you in the place where the Lord thy God has chosen to place his name there. In verse 12. And thou shalt remember that thou was a bondman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe and do these statutes. man, it would be so wonderful to just see and experience these holy days being kept the way they should be kept. To see it in real time would just be phenomenal. To see them do it. Just so we doing it the right way. 13. Thou shalt observe the Feast of Tabernacles 7 days. After that, thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine. Okay, so I told you, it wasn't just money or anything like that, but I'm just kind of giving you guys an idea. Okay, just giving you an idea. All right, so we are going to turn our attention over to the New Testament, because you're going to have people come against you. For you guys out there who are particularly new and you never really celebrated, observed the feast days, or you're kind of interested, you're like, okay, what the Bible has to say about it. First and foremost, I'm glad that you guys are here. I'm glad you're looking at the lesson. But second, I'm just going to let you know there's going to be people out there going to take it away from you. They're going to tell you it's unnecessary. You don't have to do that. That's done away with. We're not in Jerusalem. All that. Okay. Look at all the places we were just reading. They were not in Jerusalem just yet. Okay. But they forget that part. We're not under that law, whatever. Well, we're going to go to the New Testament and we're going to see it says something quite different. Okay. We're going to see that it's something quite different. And some people, I saw a video where these two pastors were having a conversation, or kind of a debate, sort of. And full disclosure, they were really talking about the Sabbath, right? And they were going back and forth about the Sabbath. And the one who said that we as believers should keep the Sabbath had pretty much convinced the other one, because he could not prove why we don't keep the Sabbath, right? And so he asked me, he said, okay, so are you going to go and tell your congregation or whatever? He's like, no, I can't do that, because he's feared that he was going to lose the congregation. And it's sad. It's sad for him to, have a surreptitious attitude towards the Sabbath. And I said that to include, these holy days, right? Well, let's do this because now you got to go before the congregation and admit that, hey, we've been doing it wrong all this time. See, that's ego. We cannot teach according to our ego. We cannot teach whether or not we're going to offend someone, or whether or not we're gonna lose numbers, or that's not why you teach in the first place. The Most High talked to the prophet, and he's like, whether they hear or whether they forbear, tell them. Whether they listen or not, you tell them. Because it's not you that they're rejecting me. Says the Most High. But this is what we deal with, guys. This is what we deal with. But we're going to go over to the New Testament. Join me over in Colossians real quick. Join me over in Colossians. Colossians 2, and I'm going to start at 16. Colossians 2, 16. And let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of a holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbaths. Now he said that because they have new moon feasts and stuff, right? To mark the coming of a brand new month, right? But anyway, and of the Sabbath days. Why does he say that? He said, which are a shadow of things to come, meaning it foreshadows something to come. But the body, the real deal, but the body is of Christ. Now they try to use this particular scriptures to say, hey, you know what? Don't let nobody judge you. They're going to come and tell you, you need to keep these holy days and all that. You don't have to do that. Don't let anyone judge you. Now, again, look at who he's talking about. Let's look at this in context. Okay? Let's look at this in context. Because I want to warn you. The reason why I'm giving you a warning, I'm teaching and I'm warning. I'm teaching and I'm warning. Because one, I want to affirm those who are already doing it. And I just want to reaffirm them. And I want to warn the other brand new people, first time looking at a lesson like this, trying to figure out this whole holy day type thing, right? I want to warn them of the skullduggery that these people are going to come to you and tell you all the things you are, or twist, warp, and distort scriptures. tell you you don't have to do it, or they're going to twist, warp, and distort the scriptures. So I'm trying to help you in this. So they're going to use this, and they're going to say, okay, hey, let no man therefore judge you in meat or drink or respect of the holy day or of the new moon or the Sabbaths, right? Now this is Paul talking to the Colossians, right? Now I want you to understand something. Let's walk it back just for a second. He's talking to people who didn't do it before, who knew nothing about it. And then he said, hey, some people are going to judge you. Think about it. Some people are going to judge you for not doing it. Don't let them judge you in that. They're going to be like, well, not doing what? They were not doing it. So if they're saying you don't have to do it, then they're not going to judge you for not doing it. It doesn't make any sense. And if they're judging you for doing it, now again, they were not doing it before because these are Colossians, right? They were not doing it before. So him coming to teach them not to do it doesn't make sense. Point is, he's teaching them to do it and then saying, don't let someone come take it away, because it foreshadows the real deal that's coming, which is Christ. Okay, these are the shadows. These are the things we have to do. This is why I'm saying we should be practicing it, because it foreshadows the things to come. It shadows the things to come. They try to make it, they try to marginalize it, minimize it. Oh, we don't have to do this. No big deal. That's done. No. It foreshadows. It gets us into practice. You probably, if you saw any of the other lessons, you'll see that I'll use Karate Kid references, wax on, wax off. He gives us these practical things that we need to do. We have these feasts, we sit there and rejoice. You offer up these sacrifices. Now we don't do sacrifices. Get into that later. But you do this as I said earlier in this video, a dress rehearsal. Okay, this is kind of getting us ready for what is to come, getting us prepared for what is to come. Right? Let's see what else Paul says. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 5. 1 Corinthians 5. Okay, and it says here, I'm gonna go to 8. You know what? I'm gonna back it up a little bit. Instead of just going to 8, which is the scripture that I want. I do want verse 8, but instead of just going straight there, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back up a little bit, and let me see, where is my Bible there? Got my Bible here, and okay, I don't want to wait for that. That's why you always have to have the good old tried and true. So we're gonna go 1 Corinthians 5 and 8. 1 Corinthians chapter 5, and I'm gonna start over at 1. I'm going to start at 1. Now, verse 8 is what I want, but I'm going to start at 1 for context, right? And it says, it is reported commonly that there is fornication among you, and we know fornication is wrong, and such fornication as it is not so much as named among the Gentiles, meaning you are doing it, but the Gentiles are not doing it. That one should have his father's wife, right? So that's wrong. And you are puffed up and have not rather mourned, okay? You all, you proud of it and everything, but you should be mourning. You should be in mourning of this, right? That he that has done this deed might be taken away from among you, right? This person you need to be sad, you need to get him up out of here, right? For I verily, as absent in the body, but present in spirit, have judged already as though I was present. Like I judged it as if I was right there, right? Concerning him that has done such this deed. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, when ye are gathered together in my spirit with the power of our Lord Jesus Christ, to deliver such a one unto Satan for the destruction of the flesh, that the spirit may be saved in the day of the Lord Jesus. Verse 6, your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump, okay? A little bit poisons the whole thing. It ruins the whole thing. All of y'all gonna get caught up in it because you all put up with someone committing such an heinous, sinful, wicked act. You tolerate it, which means it is going to just permeate throughout the assembly, because now everyone will be doing it because it's okay. You tolerated it. Okay. Okay, leaven the whole lump. Verse 7, he said, purge out therefore the old leaven, feast of unleavened bread. Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ our what? Passover is sacrificed for us. Then what he said in 8, therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice or wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth, right? So he said, so we got to purge out that old leaven, but the big one, what was that? It was therefore let us keep the feast. And in my Bible, it's New Testament. What is it in your Bible? Therefore, let us keep the feast. Now he's talking about, Passover, unleavened bread, but look at the context. See, it gets us back on track. It gets us back on track. That's why we do a lesson every week, every Shabbat. We get us to get our minds back on the things of the Most High. Gets us back on track. Same thing when I teach a lesson. The same thing, it gets me back on track. The world will carry you away and get your mind on something else, and then it gets us right back on track. Particularly with this annual feast day, gets us back on track. You remember back in the day, there was like the Hot Wheels racetrack. You guys might have to Google it, but it had a little Hot Wheels racetrack, right? And the Hot Wheels, it goes all around the track and everything, but then it goes into this little box in the track, and then that box propels it through, shoots it through, give the car more momentum, enough momentum so that it gets all the way back around to that little box again, that shoots through there, right? It just kind of pushes it through there. It kind of propels them through the car, the little Hot Wheels car, propels it through the track with enough force to get it all the way back around the track, right? Sometimes they'll have more than those, those little boxes that propels them. That's the same thing with these feast days, but that's the same thing with the Sabbaths. It's the same thing. It's to get you through. Keep going, get you through, get you through, get you through. It propels you to the next one, pushes you to the next one. One Sabbath should push you to the next one. Another Sabbath should push you to the next one. The annual one, it should push you down the path of righteousness, that track of righteousness. It pushes you forward. And that's what it should be doing. If we're doing it right, this is a time where we're supposed to rejoice. 1 Peter. We're going to go to 1 Peter chapter 1. Verse 18 reads this way. For as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold, for your vain conversation, which means your lifestyle, received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. I told you we're going to get back to that lamb without blemish, without spot. I told you we're going to get back to that. Okay? I told you we're going to get to that. Let me read that for you one more time. 1 Peter 1, 18 and 19. For as much as you know that you were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ as of a lamb without blemish and without spot. Okay, remember what we said on this feast days. Remember, we already did that tomorrow after the Sabbath. Now we're talking about you got to present that he lamb without blemish, without spot. Okay. Now, we're going to go ahead and go over to Matthew 26. We'll go to Matthew 26. Starting in verse 1. We'll read 1 and 2. And it says, and it came to pass when Jesus had finished all these sayings, he said unto his disciples, you know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. So in 2 days is the feast of the Passover. So again, still keeping a feast day. But we've already established, Paul did too. He said keep it. Okay, he said keep it. Therefore, let us keep the feast. Let's keep this thing going. Okay, so we already established that, because as soon as you say that, now again, I'm speaking to those who are brand new and all that. As soon as you say, oh yeah, we need to do it. Look, Christ kept, oh well, I mean, he was a Jew. Of course he did. He hadn't died yet. We already established, Paul already said this was well after Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. Okay, that's well, Colossians is after that. Okay, so we already established that. So let's go on over to Matthew 28. So we're going to go, after the fact. Matthew 28, first 6 verses, read this. He says, in the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone from the door and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning and his raiment white as snow. And for the fear of him that keepers did shake and became as dead men. And the angel answered and said unto the women, fear ye not, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. He is not here. So it dawned towards the first day of the week, meaning it was dark and it started to get some light. Don't matter. He was already gone. He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come and see the place where the Lord lay. Where he was, because they got there, he wasn't there. Okay? I'm just pointing out a few things so that you can see exactly what happened. I just read it for you. Okay? I just read it. Now he was crucified. When was he crucified? Because all we have to do is all we got to do, ladies and gentlemen, is just look at the Passover, right? And when you go back in time, okay, all we have to just go back in time. We can see when did it happen, right? And let's see what Daniel said. When would it have happened, right? Daniel 9:26. Daniel 9:26, and it says this. In 26, it says, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. Okay, but not for himself, without spot, without blemish. He's going to be killed, not for himself, without spot, without blemish, right? And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. Okay, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, with an army. Okay, it's symbolic. That's when Rome came, ransacked, all that. Okay, we'll get to that. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. Okay, so that's Jerusalem. So it definitely happened. But what is he going to do in 27? He said, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. Okay, he's going to confirm the covenant, Torah, the law, and all the prophecies that had to do with him. Okay, he's going to confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, in the middle of the week, you look at your calendar. What is the middle of the week? What's the day in the middle of the week? Okay. In the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblations to cease. Right. So once he sacrificed, and once Jerusalem is all ransacked and all the Israelites are ran out of there, there's no more sacrifices after that. Okay. So he's going to cause the sacrifices to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. And that did happen. Even until the consummation, okay? Until he come back. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. When he comes back, until he comes back. Until he comes back. Brothers and sisters. Okay? Just give you an idea. Well, where are you going? We're talking about, Passover. Don't worry, we're going somewhere. Remember what I told you to remember. Remember what I told you to take a mental note. Okay? Let's go to John chapter 20. John 20. Okay? And I'm going to start at verse 11. Look at this now. But Mary stood without of the sepulchre, weeping, as she went and stooped down and looked into the sepulchre. Because, right, come and see where he lay. And he's not there, right? And see 2 angels in white sitting, one at the head and the other at the feet, where the body of Christ had lain, right, where it was. And they say unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? And she said unto them, Because they have taken away my Lord, and I know not where they have laid him. Right? He wasn't there. And when she had thus said, she turned herself back and saw Jesus standing and knew not that it was Jesus. Like she didn't recognize him, right? She didn't know that was him. And Jesus said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou? Whom seekest thou? And she, supposing him to be the gardener, said unto him, Sir, if thou hast borne him hence, if you moved him somewhere, if you taken him somewhere, borne him hence, tell me where thou laid him, and I will take him away. And Jesus said unto her, Mary. She turned herself and said unto him, Rabboni, which is to say, Master, right? Then she recognized him, right? And Jesus said unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. I have not yet ascended to my Father. Without spot, he's going to wave the sheave offering and a he lamb without spot, without blemish. I told you we were going somewhere. We're talking about Pentecost, but I told you we were going somewhere. It's symbolic. Okay? So he had to go present himself without spot, he is the Lamb. Behold, the Lamb of God, right? He's sinless. He hadn't yet ascended up to the Father to present himself just yet. He came out of the grave, but he hadn't gone up there yet. Okay? But go to my brethren and say unto them, I sin unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. And Mary Magdalene came and told her disciples that she had seen the Lord, and that he had spoken these things unto her. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, that's on a Sunday, when the doors were shut where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst, right there in the middle of them, and said unto them, Peace be unto you. Okay? I'm giving you the breakdown. We're just giving you the breakdown. I'm just saying, when we're talking about the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, when we're talking about that, it confirms the old. It confirms the law and the prophets. This is what I'm trying to press upon you. It confirms it. It doesn't do away with it. Doesn't destroy it, despite what some people want to do, want to say, want to insist. Okay? Let's get on over to 1 Corinthians 15. Okay? It all comes together. Now, what about the first fruit part? Okay? Wave the sheaf offering of the first fruit. It all comes together. 1 Corinthians 15, starting at verse 20. But now is Christ risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept. Okay, this whole brand new crop, this new creature, right? New creature in Christ, right? For since by man came death, by man came also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam, all die, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. But every man in his own order, Christ the first fruits, and afterwards they that are Christ at his coming. The first fruit become the first fruit, confirming the old. It's all symbolic. This is why we do these holy days, brothers and sisters. Okay? Romans 8 and 14, which says this. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. For ye have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but ye have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself bear witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. If so, be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. For the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God, his first fruit. For The creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who had subjected the same in hope. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. For we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves, waiting for the adoption, to wit, the redemption of our body. Okay, we're going to drop down to 29. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. That's what this whole first fruit thing. We're going to be a new creature in him, and he's the first fruit of that. We're all after that. He's going to be the firstborn of many brethren. To die, to be resurrected, to get that glorified body. Oh, Brother Robert Moray, other people died, like Lazarus. Okay, but it wasn't a glorified body. He died again. And in the dirt right now, sleep. Okay, so waiting on the resurrection. So this is a different kind of first fruit. Different kind of resurrection. Okay, now since we're talking about Pentecost, then we got to go to the all too familiar scriptures in Acts 2. So that's where we're going to start. Let's go to Acts 2. We'll start at verse 1. Let's deal with it, because when we're talking about Pentecost, this is where everybody goes. So no Pentecost lesson would be complete without reading Acts chapter 2. So let's do just that. See what it means. Verse 1, it says, and when the day of Pentecost was fully come. Wow, so they were still keeping it, huh? This is after Christ's resurrection. But when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. So they were observing the Pentecost. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, and began to speak with other tongues, other languages, as the Spirit gave them utterance. And there was a dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven. Out of every nation under heaven. Okay. Now I said languages earlier. Okay. When it comes to tongues, but I will also allow the scriptures to interpret itself. Now, when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. And they were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, behold, are not all these which speak Galileans? Like, aren't they Galileans? How are they speaking my language, right? And how hear we every man in our own tongue wherein we were born? Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and dwellers of Mesopotamia, and Judea, and Cappadocia, and Pontus, and Asia, Phrygia, Pamphylia, and Egypt, and in the ports of Libya about Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians. We do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of God. And they were all amazed and were in doubt, saying one to another, what means this? Like, what does this mean? The other mocking and saying, these mean they're full of new wine. But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice and said unto them, ye men of Judea, and all ye that dwell at Jerusalem, be this known unto you, and hearken to my words, for these are not drunken, as ye suppose, seeing it is but the third hour of the day. I mean, it was pretty early, roughly about 9 a.m., right? It's third hour of the day. But this is that which was spoken by the prophet Joel. And then he starts reciting Joel, right? He says, and it shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And on my servants and on my handmaidens I will pour out in those days of my spirit, and they will prophesy. Which is what they were doing, the wonderful works of God. And I will show wonders in heavens above, and signs in earth beneath, blood and fire and vapor of smoke. And the sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and notable day of the Lord come. Okay, so he says he's going to do all that. So let's go on over to Joel, right? Let's go over to Joel and see what's going on with that one. Chapter 2, verse 28. Joel 2, verse 28. And it shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. And also upon the servants and upon the handmaids in those days will I pour out my spirit. So he just said that. He said, now I'll even show wonders in heaven and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. See, all the same thing, right? The sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. And it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered, shall be saved, right? For in Mount Zion and in Jerusalem shall be deliverance, and the Lord has said, and in the remnant whom the Lord shall call. In the remnant, because so few people are going to do it. This is how you get that remnant. Because so few people are going to follow it, going to do it, going to obey it, going to get the Holy Spirit. So few people. So few. Let's go on over to Isaiah. Okay? Because we got to kind of cover like one more thing, right? This whole year, of Jubilee, this release, this deliverance. The ultimate deliverance, right? Isaiah 34 and 8. Isaiah 34 and 8. It says, for it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. Because, they causing a lot of trouble in Zion. There's trouble in Zion, isn't it? Trouble in Jerusalem, isn't it? Let's go on over to Isaiah 63. Isaiah 63 and 4. And it says what? For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. So it's coming. It's coming. These days, these holy days all mean something. They all point towards something. Go back to the New Testament. Let's go back to the New Testament. Matthew 24. Matthew 24. We're going to move around a little bit. I'm going to start over in verse 3. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? Now drop down to 29. It says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now we know this hasn't happened just yet. We know things start to unfold in 70 AD. We understand that, they ransacked Jerusalem, and pretty much all the Israelites kicked out and migrated down into Africa, and of course spent many centuries down in Africa, and they kind of came to the west coast of Africa, and then we knew some ships came and got the Israelites at that point. So that's how we got where we are today. But we know it started to unfold in 70 AD. That was the beginning of the end. Okay, that's what we had there. So you're in Matthew, but let's just back up real quick in Matthew, and we're going to read Matthew 13. Well, we're going to go to chapter 13, but let's start at verse 24 real quick, and we'll jump around a little bit, and I'll let you know. Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in the field. But while men slept, his enemies came and sowed tares among the wheat, and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said unto him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in the field? From whence then has it tares? Like, where do these tares come from, right? Or why does it have these tares? And he said unto them, An enemy has done this. The servant said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? You want us to go pluck it up, right? He says, but he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, you root up also the wheat with them, right? So you're gonna pluck up the bad, but you're gonna take the good with it. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at the time of the harvest, I will say to the reapers, gather ye together first the tares, gather the bad, gather the tares first, bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into the barn. Okay? Okay? So that's for those who are listening to the whole rapture thing, right? So once it gets snatched up, it's not snatched up in heaven, it's snatched up to be burned. That's a lesson for another day. Drop down to 36. Then Jesus sent the multitude away and went into his house. Disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. And he answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. And the enemy that soweth them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. As therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire, so shall it be in the end of this world. And the Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all the things that offend, and them which do iniquity. Look at who he's going to go after, brothers and sisters. And shall cast them into a furnace of fire, and there shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Then shall the righteous shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Who has ears to hear, let him hear. So who has ears to hear, let him hear. If you're paying attention to this, he's telling you exactly what is going to look like. He's trying to paint you a mental picture of what it's going to look like at the end. That's how I said that. That's how I know, a lot of this hadn't happened yet, because he hadn't come and the angels hadn't started gathering up the tares to be burned and to throw them in the lake of fire and all that. Okay, but this is what's going to look like. This is how we prepare. This is how we get to know what's going to happen when we understand these holy days. Okay, this is how we know. When you know what these holy days mean, what they symbolize, what they stand for, when you know who Israel is, then you can properly assign prophecies. Prophecy, it goes to these people, not these people. It doesn't apply to them, right? You get a better understanding. Okay, let's go with Isaiah 13:9. Isaiah 13:9. Let's look at this year of recompense. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh cruel, both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. He's going to get those angels to come grab all those sinners, grab those tares, get them up out of there. In the year that he does it, the year of recompense, because you're talking about people who are going to be resurrected and have this new body redeemed. Free from a body that's carnal, that has the shackles of sin on it, where we constantly have to fight to remain righteous. Like right now, we got to fight. It's a fight. It's a marathon. It's a race. It's not a sprint. You got to keep on keeping on. All the time. Fighting, stumbling, messing up. Have to repent. Do it all over again. Trying to walk in this way of righteousness. But when you get redeemed, and you have a glorified body and there's no sin in it, make things a little bit easier. But see, that's part of the reward. That's what we're striving for, right? Leviticus 25. Okay? Leviticus 25, verse 13. In the year of this Jubilee, ye shall return every man unto his possession, right? Just that freedom, no more this bondage, this struggle, because we all know the struggle is real. Okay, but we're trying to get out of that. The struggle is so real, and we're trying to get out of that. That's okay. So, how do we observe this? The feast day. How do we do it? Okay, I said we're going to get to that, and now we're at Deuteronomy 14. I also told you I'll tell you exactly what the tithes were and all that back then. It's a little different now, but I'm still going to tell you. Okay, so Deuteronomy 14, we're going to start at verse 22. Deuteronomy 14, verse 22. It says this: Thou shalt truly tithe all the increase of thy seed that the field bringeth forth year by year. Year by year. And thou shalt eat before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose to place his name there. Why didn't it just simply say Jerusalem? Okay, so you can do it here. The tithe of thy corn and of thy wine and of thy oil and the firstling of thy herd and of thy flocks. Okay, you got your sacrifice, you got your sheath offering and all that. Okay, seems like you got all that. That thou mayest learn to fear the Lord thy God always, right? Now, you're going to go somewhere, go to a particular land or something like that, or you're going to travel, you're going to go out of state. If the way be too long for thee, so that thou art not able to carry it, or if the place be too far for thee, if it's too far for you, which the Lord thy God shall choose to set his name there, when the Lord thy God has blessed thee, so he blessed you, you have an increase, you did pretty good, right? The past year. Then shall thou turn it into money, and bind up that money in thine hand, and shall go unto the place which the Lord thy God shall choose. So you found a congregation, you found a family, you know where you want to go. Great. Travel, go do it. And then 26. And thou shalt bestow that money for whatsoever thy soul lusteth after, what you desire, right? And then he gives an example. For oxen, you want some of that? Or for sheep, or for wine, or for strong drink, or for whatsoever thy soul desire. And thou shalt eat there before the Lord thy God, and thou shalt what? Rejoice, celebrate, happy, thou and thine household. Okay, not talking about anything abominable, anything that's against the law, or anything like this. Not talking about any of that. That's why he gave you some examples. Okay, and every example he gave was a clean animal or something to drink or stuff like that. The food stuff, everything that's good. Okay, everything that's good. So brothers and sisters, so we have that. Okay, so we have this holy day. We have. I hope I went through and explained the meanings as we went along. I wanted to break down everything. I wanted to break down, first fruit. I wanted to break down, a he lamb without spot, without blemish. I wanted to break down, how we get to Pentecost. How do we get to the first day of the week? We count 7 Sabbaths plus a day. The day after that Sabbath, boom, now you're there today. We know we talked about how Messiah plays a role in this, how he is the first fruit. He's the lamb, he's the first fruit, he's the offering, he's all that. This is what we're believing in. This is why he's our advocate. This is why we believe in the Messiah. This is why we celebrate Pentecost, the Feast of Weeks, Shavuot. This is why we do it. You have this feast, you have this lesson, you talk about it, you have merriment, celebrate with your friends and family. Celebrate that the Most High gotten you this far, celebrate that the Most High has blessed you, and you have a good time. He gave you another year. It's a time to be happy, it's a time to rejoice. Now, before we get out of here, brothers and sisters, allow me to encourage you to like, share, comment, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend. Smash that notification bell because I don't want you to miss any of our lessons. If you feel so inclined to donate, you can donate either through PayPal or you can donate through CashApp. It's completely up to you. But either way, I hope someone has been edified by this lesson. So until next time, search the scriptures, improve all things. Shalom, Israel.